One of the experiences certainly I've had in the 90s is that sense of our fragmentation. You know, if you came up through the 70s, there was a group you could go to. There was a sense of like being connected. I don't feel that in the same way now. So I hope that this conference will give us that kind of room to actually reconnect and perhaps organise something that's a little bit more permanent and solid. You know.
What do the metaphors, frontlines, backyards mean for you?
When we talk about frontline, we are the frontline, for God's sake, because our color alone make us stand out there in the street and be noticed whether we want to or not.
Frontlines is clearly the line that most of us live on for a great percentage of our day when we're out in the day-to-day world trying to negotiate and mediate a space and open it up for not just ourselves but for generations to come.
It means confrontation, it means fighting for your survival and your existence.
For me, there's something about Frontlines backyards that are about internal, external as well. But I don't particularly subscribe to the differences of frontline and backyard. I think for me there's a merging and a very lived thing about them both happening at the same time.
I think what it means for me is really about the constructions of identities, the points at which communities meet, the points at which they change and change their surroundings.
I think women have more connection with that sense of the backyard because a lot of our politics takes place around the kitchen table. It takes place in that kind of personal arena. So in a way it's nice to have a conference that acknowledges that as a relevant space.
Well, I did work with the kids about a project of ethnicity, and I try to make them develop their understanding about themselves, who they are, where they come from.
I would hope that artists and academics are in a similar environment, simply so that artists can keep asking pertinent questions from academics to respond to, because otherwise they kind of might get complacent in a kind of academic environment and forget that these theories that they're dealing with actually have to relate on a ground level to actual people.
Was to be gained, if anything, from privileging one form of knowledge over another. And when I say one form of knowledge, knowledge in the sense of how ideas are communicated, whether they're communicated through the visual arts, through visual images, whether they're communicated through music, whether they're communicated through poetry, through personal testimony, or through sort of rattling off relevant statistics. And I think the unresolved debate was over, whether we in fact can look at academic discourse and so-called non-academic discourse, which I think can be debated in and of itself, can actually sort of digest them on an equal plane.
We didn't want it to be a conference solely for academics, partly because we didn't want to say, well, that was the only kind of way we were going to validate the conference or say that was the importance, but we actually wanted to involve artists, community groups, people who are active on the kind of day-to-day events in terms of cultural politics as well as racism.
When we talk about Frontline, we are the front line, for God's sake, because our color alone make us stand out there in the street and be noticed whether we want to or not.
Well, the high point was really the poetry being read. Can't remember the ladies' names, but it was wonderful. I enjoyed it so much because it took me back to the Caribbean.
Who am I? Who am I? Sapodilla hued, brown toned woman child. I know who I am. 2 and 5 eons young, hair like Caribbean aerials tuned into BBC British Birth Complex. While satellite dish hug memories of zinc roofs where navel string lay, buried beneath Guyanese sun-blessed coconut trees, backyard of Granny Shack, protected by jaws of rain, wind spears and violent clouds, forced to transmit British soil. She knew who she was. Who am I? Who am I? Molasses flowing, nutmeg shaded woman child. I know who I am. I'm transmitting triple identity, feline, negress, and dual countries. She knew who she was. Did my veins not flow through the Demerara River from Buxton, Freetown to Carriacou, where my bloodlines grew fertile, hardened, upright women who gracefully coursed through life, soldiers guarding her life's paths like angels tending to God's flocks? A mental paradise of older Shango priestesses, lighting candles for future generations, creating a rich calabash of history makers. Who am I? Who am I? Waiawase. Little Antalawa, showing my motion left, right, and center. I know who I am.
This poem sort of explores growing up in a sense in a multicultural society. My mother has 2 heads, speak alien tongue. The words flow in one ear, in the other. Battle in heart, head. No better, bolder, wiser, older. My mother, married at 16, 24, long time ago, where water was unsafe to drink, frozen solid, had chilblains, children, sang under coconut, chestnut. Save yourself, they say, for a rainy day. Be bold, chic, rouge on the cheek, out you must go. Say no. Study hard. You read too much. I never see you reading, wearing drab clothes. I miss you so much. Be proud of your colour, culture. Don't be different, difficult. Find a nice black African man, no hurry, tomorrow will do. Go out, or no one will notice you. That there is no one my mother cannot believe. My mother thrusts her womanhood onto me, and my nipples cannot quite focus, cannot quite breathe. Then I'm stronger, Fight against her, battle, she loves, hates my strength. We share a common resentment, common battle. Painfully, I emerge an adult, but the following day, allies in conflict, we stride bareheaded. I am no longer single, she seeing in me herself, in herself, me.
The drama experienced by the students from Plachette School was fantastic.
Choose number one because she's really fashionable and loves spending money, and if you choose her tonight she will tell you what the word fashion means.
Choose number two, she's highly respected and everyone thinks a lot of her.
Choose number three, she's outgoing. This is a personality for you. Who's it going to be?
I don't want to be any of them.
We're young, we live in a multicultural society, and most importantly, we're individuals. So accept us for what we are, and don't judge us from the way we look.
The end of the 20th century, the end of the millennium, we are a multicultural society, but in which way are we going to imagine it? And it's in trying to imagine those different notions of complex multiplicity that the politics begins to emerge.
The Strand Futures was an attempt to think through the possibility of what a different world would be, different from the one we have now. Is it possible to think, to visualize a world where maybe racism wasn't one of the kind of key injustices of the world?
The only way you could think about one future for everyone was when you had one standard of humanity, that there was one kind of river or that everyone would travel on. And that was made possible by European imperialism. It was a way of connecting up the planet. Every little story, every little person became connected up into this vast thread, and we all went in one particular direction. Once you start saying, well, the story of Hastings, the Battle of Agincourt, doesn't mean much to me. It's not my story, so how can I have a future if you start from that point?
And one of the issues which came up in my own session, and I was particularly informed about this at the end, was how do you begin to talk about racism now? Because it's no longer about questions of power and about questions of politics. It is about people's identities, cultural identities. We were talking about the future of race and racism and the representation of that future. And what became curious was that we seemed to develop a discussion which suggested we were experiencing that future now. Okay, so the future is going to be more of what is currently happening in the present.
Looking at areas of mixed race, so for me that was very important.
And many actually, through the course of the day, spoke about this space that we had created as the first time, these were the contributors and participants alike, this was the first time they'd actually experienced community. This is the first time they'd actually been in a public space where they felt legitimated, and I thought that was incredibly positive.
I think it is probably one of the first, well, it's the first opportunity I've had to be in a place where the attempt to bring difference and diversity together and out in the open and discuss those things has taken place.
I found it difficult because it's such a painful area, and to explore it in a kind of academic, kind of impersonal workshop forum was very difficult, and I felt a frustration around that there wasn't more of a recognition that this is a new area for a lot of us to be debating in a public arena.
We had certain individuals espouting this I amism, which is one of the terms that was sort of, that came out of the Strand, this sense that I'm not black, I'm not white, I'm me. I'm not black, I'm not white, I'm me.
It's a very good opportunity, and the first opportunity to belong, in a sense, with all those differences.
I'm not black, I'm not white, I'm me.
This is the last cry, the last cry. This is the last cry, the last cry. You see me standing, you say I look hard. Is that an excuse to chip away at me short by short? You see me walking, you say I look strong. Is that the reason you abuse me all day long? The last cry, the last cry. This is the last cry, the last cry. You hear me singing, you say I got bleach. I'm only singing to take away the pain of defeat. You see me dancing, I like the style. Sometimes you copy and sometimes you defile. This is the last cry, the last cry. This is the last cry, the last cry. You take the culture and treat me like dirt. You can't compete us just to see if we can hurt. You say we're lazy and filthy to boot. Just weigh the behavior and see us the savage at Peru. The last cry, the last cry. This is the last cry, the last cry, the last cry.
The idea of bringing in other artistic and aesthetic disciplines to look and explore the same issues, I think is a very exciting one.
This conference here will not answer a lot of our questions, but what it will do, it will create more questioning as the conference is over, and the debate will continue. So in that respect, it's good, and it creates a network, and we're organizing with people, and we touch base with each other.
I think it's an important coming together of people. You know, we can be very isolated in this work, and there's a sense in which it's just nice to be around so many people who are interested in the issues and engaging with the same issues that you're, you know, committed to. Yeah.
What the conference revealed for me, and it was quite unique in a sense, because I've not attended anything like that. What it revealed for me was that we'd reached an impasse. The conference, in terms of problematizing frontlines and backyards, was actually signifying the fact that there isn't an overall language here. So how do we talk about these issues in the absence of an overall language?
We have had the language to talk about race and racism, but it's shifting all the time. And I'm wondering what that shift is about, because I think it does kind of depoliticize the kind of whole issue about race.